Hello, hello, and welcome to the Main Event 365. This is our exclusive interview series. I'm your host, Main Event Mike, and today we have a very special guest with us today. One of the most respected opinions on the internet when it comes to Detroit Lions football. Somebody that I've dipped into many times to gain a few stats, get an edge on my game. And we're really happy to have him, and like to give a big Main Event welcome to Mr. Mark Orum from Orums Forum and YouTube channel. How are you today?
I'm good, Mike. How's it going, man? Thanks for having me on. This is great.
Yeah, man, we're really excited to have you on, ready to talk about some Detroit Lions football. Kind of the big picture is what I wanted to talk about today, not necessarily coming off this big Packer win or looking ahead to this Bears game like we normally do. Kind of want to dig into a few different topics that maybe you don't hear 1,000 chuckleheads on the internet talking about. So, tell me about you, Mark, and I want to know specifically, you start every show with the Mr. Miyagi. Give me a little insight on that. What's that all about?
Well, I'm a big wrestling fan, and so when I first started doing it, and I actually like the Karate Kid, so the Miyagi thing is not a real. I wasn't trying to do Mr. Miyagi there, but I was trying to do something when I started the YouTube. I'm like, how am I going to do my entrance? I didn't really know. Just like, hey guys, how's it going? I was like, I got to spice it up a little bit. So I'm a huge wrestling fan, and Ric Flair was one of my favorite wrestlers growing up, the Nature Boy. So I just decided to do a woo, and I clap and a woo, and I think that kind of worked out so far.
Yeah, now it's your signature.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I kind of like it. Yeah.
Now you can't stop doing it ever.
Now I can't stop doing it ever, man. And people seem to enjoy it. They get a kick out of it. So it's fun for sure. Yeah. It gets the juices going.
Right on. And you're a huge Lions fan, not just somebody who gives their opinion and their analysis about the team, but you're a huge fan too. And I love that. Do you feel something different here? Is there finally a culture change going on here in Detroit?
I feel like the culture change, I think, is there. I think everybody's on board. Like, Brad Holmes, Dan Campbell, he's brought his guys over. He's brought ex players that were coaches. And they've all been a part of the game forever. Obviously, that's how you kind of want to build. But when it comes to culture, winning changes culture, but there's a couple different types of culture. You could say, they're bringing guys over, the guys that are bought in. That's a type of culture, guys that want to win, guys that not necessarily don't care about the money, but of course they have to get paid. This is a business. But guys that just want to be with each other, with this group of coaches, and guys that care, because it just always kind of seems like, through the Lions years anyways, it's always guys kind of just chasing the bag, kind of just going through the flow, guys coming in their kind of like their last legs of the NFL. We're starting to get a little bit younger guys. I feel like they, even through free agency that Brad Holmes and Campbell have brought in, they're not going for guys that are right at their last legs that are about. Like, of course, they're going to bring some guys like that, some vets like a Michael Brockers, and we've seen guys like that. But bringing over Deshaun Elliott and stuff like that, still fairly young, can actually play safety a little bit. I think it's a culture. I think it's, the winning's going to come, but I think they all love to be with each other, and they're all fighting the same fight. The only culture is winning. The part of that is true, but you also want to just have guys that are in sync, family, that really will fight for each other and their coach. And the players that they brought in, you're not hearing bad things about any of the coaches, even the coaches that get fired from here. You're not hearing bad words from these players. So that's a culture in itself. So if players are going to come here, they're going to have to fight for their coaches and their players themselves and their teammates, right?
Right. I think that's a spot on analysis. Detroit used to be where careers came to die.
Right.
Right. And that part of the culture has definitely changed based, just on those points that you just touched on. But I know that all of us here at this show, we're slappies when it comes to Brad Holmes. I know I've watched you a few times, and I know you're kind of aligned with us on here that this guy's doing it right. I mean, how do we measure a GM? Is by how he handles the salary cap and his draft picks. Are the two main things. And you touched on this in one of your videos. Yeah. And I just want to hear you tell me, do you trust Brad Holmes and why?
Well, right now, like I do trust him. I think he is doing things the right way. When he came in here last year, this team was a complete train wreck. Bob Quinn and Matt Patricia left this team in turmoil, contract wise, with a lot of the guys, and they're trying to cut a bunch of dead weight, and then fans will just get real fickle, real upset about not spending a bunch of money and trying to be the New York Yankees of the football world. They don't really have that luxury of doing that the last couple of years. That's why I think Brad Holmes hasn't done it. So he's trying to cut a lot of cap. He's trying to do things the right way, bringing in some fillers as of right now, some decent football players. And I think he's hitting on his young guys. Like if you go look at all the young guys, there's not really an issue going on with his young draft picks. Like, look what happened last game, man. Like, all of his draft picks are starting to play well. You see the Kirby Josephs playing well. You see Malcolm Rodriguez playing well. Hutchinson is flashing every now and then. The young guys are playing. Sewell, James Mitchell scored a touchdown. So that's what you like to see, man. He's building. I think the money will eventually be spent. 2023 is when we start to get a little more cap relief. And then if there's a couple more releases or trades from a couple players, that they could end up with one of the biggest cap number in the NFL for 2023. And I think next year they might start spending a little bit more money. So I think he's doing it the right way. His young guys are playing well, developing. His late draft picks are hitting, and people want to get upset about the guys that he took, like the Levi and Ruzariques and the JMOs, who hasn't played well at all, actually. So that does hurt a bit. Obviously, you want guys that are going to be week one ready, but it's just sometimes he's going for the future. Like, this is what he's doing. He's drafting for the future. And it's not going to take a 1, 2, 3 year. I believe this is going to take another couple years, to be honest. But I think he's on the right path.
And I like what you said there. You think he's doing it the right way.
Yeah.
He started on the offensive line, drafted Penei Sewell. Sure, Micah Parsons is a phenomenal player. But he's starting right there. I mean, there's a lot of people think we should have taken Micah Parsons rather than Penei Sewell, but
right.
Penei Sewell's panning out to be a great pick for just what we need on the offensive line. And he's doing it the right way. He's bringing in the right character guys, team captains, 4-year starters that he's drafting out of, and he's really doing it the right way. And because of those things, here on this show at the Main Event 365, we are all behind Brad Holmes, even though I know a lot of people are not.
For sure.
The most recent Brad Holmes move was, of course, trading TJ Hockenson to the Minnesota Vikings. I want to get your take on that, especially the narrative about it's all over the internet of people saying, inside the division. And Brad Holmes himself said that was archaic thinking. So tell me, who won this trade and what's your personal feelings on the trade itself?
Well, winning the trade, I actually think both teams won this trade. Yeah. I actually think both teams won this trade. I don't think any team got fleeced. I don't think Brad Holmes, got the bad end of the deal. I don't think the Minnesota Vikings got the better end of the deal. I think it was a solid trade for everybody. Like, we got a second round pick. We got a future third. We had to give up a little bit to get him. We had to give up that 4th rounder for next year and a future 4th that could turn into a 5th if the Vikings win a playoff game. It looks like they might. So that could even be even better for the Lions. But the Vikings got a good tight end. I'm not sure what was really going on here with TJ Hockenson, man. People, he's a 1st round pick that probably shouldn't have been drafted in top 10. And I'm not trying to throw shade on Hockenson because he's not here no more, because I was a fan. I was a fan of TJ Hockenson. I liked him. I liked the way he played the game. But there were some things that that you couldn't ignore. He was putting up Eric Ebron numbers, whether people want to believe it or not. He actually was. He was putting up those type of numbers. But he's still a good tight end, but he's not worth the money that apparently he's asking for. Like, he's apparently asking for guys like George Kittle, Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Darren Waller, who hasn't really played much this year. He's been hurt, but he's not worth top 5 money. And tight ends are a luxury pick. Like, I think it's a luxury. If you're going to go draft one in the 1st round, 2nd round, you're this close to becoming a perennial playoff team, and maybe you're about a piece away.
Right.
You know what I mean? So it's like, And again, it's no shade on Hawk, but he's just not worth. This team doesn't have the luxury of actually dumping $15 to $17 million into a tight end that's not going to be used a lot. And it felt like he wasn't used enough to warrant that contract. And, and then the Hockenson goes out and, he has 9 catches for 70 yards with Minnesota, and people start rubbing it in. Well, we had 2 tight ends that scored touchdowns. So we can look at it both ways. The youth movement, with James Mitchell and Shane Zylstra, both scored touchdowns. I like it. Then a personal feeling, I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it because I think he's a good player, but I'll keep saying this. He's just not worth top 5 money. He's not, because somebody's going to pay him $15 to $17 million, and I'm glad it's not the Detroit Lions.
Right. And if you look at the elite tight ends around the league, none of them were drafted in the first round. So that just validates the point that you're making there. And to take him 8th overall was definitely too big of a reach for a tight end. And when you add up Zylstra, James Mitchell, and Brock Wright, all 3 of them together aren't going to cost you the $9.5 million that it's going to cost Minnesota next year.
Next year, I think what Brad Holmes did, and I think this is pretty obvious what he did, he leveraged the team or himself to possibly move up in this draft.
Yes.
We have 5 picks in the top 65 coming up in this draft. Brad Holmes, it looks like he's starting to hit on players. It's still kind of early to start saying he's a genius or anything like that, but players are starting to develop. Now, when you have 5 picks in the top 65, you can do almost whatever you want to do now. I think he's got leverage. 2 picks in the first round, 2 picks in the second, I believe now, and then it's a third or a fourth. I think it's a third. So we have leverage. If you want to go up and get a quarterback, you go up and get him. You want to go up and get a stud defensive player, or if you want to move down and gather more picks, he can do that. And I think it was a really smart move of what Brad Holmes did, man, trying to gain the picks. So I think that was a really good move by Brad Holmes and the Lions.
Me too. And also, every game that the Rams lose, that pick just gets better and better for us, man.
Yeah,
I love
right
that.
Now, right? 12. So, yeah.
Yeah. So we talked about Brad. We're starting at the top and working our way down. For anybody just joined us, we are here with Mark Orum from Orums Forum, a respected voice on the internet about the Detroit Lions and a very knowledgeable man that we have in the Lions Den today. So be sure to head over to our YouTube channel if you haven't already and smash that subscribe button. Check out Orums Forum on YouTube as well and subscribe. I did today, by the way, Mark. And checked out a lot of your content. It's really good stuff, and I know our viewers are going to enjoy it. I want to talk now about this coaching staff.
Yeah.
Dan Campbell, never been more than an interim head coach.
Mm-hmm.
Not a Brad Holmes pick.
Yes.
And then when he assembles his staff with Aaron Glenn running the defense, and now Ben Johnson elevated to offensive coordinator. This one really intrigues me. I want to hear your assessment on all 3 of these guys, and I want to start with Ben Johnson before we hit on the head coach. What's your assessment of Ben Johnson, the game that he's calling, and where does he need to tweak it?
With Ben Johnson, it seems, he's one of the young minds in the NFL. Dan Campbell, I think, even had him a little bit in Miami, I believe, and brought him over.
That's right.
From Miami. And it's a guy that's been kind of coveted, Ben Johnson. I know you heard about Zach Taylor, who's always been trying to get Ben Johnson on his staff for the last 2-3 years, or 2 years anyways, with Campbell. And Campbell has had to actually elevate Ben Johnson's status on his job title, so he couldn't poach him off our staff. So smart work by Dan Campbell, keeping a really young-minded, good coach who I think has a possibility to maybe be a head coach one day in the NFL. I like the way he calls games. He gets sometimes he gets a little bit caught up with the adjustment. I think he's still going through some things with the adjustment process, especially in the second half of games that I think he needs to tweak on a little bit. But all in all, man, you can't really argue the offense. They've been a phenomenal. Once he got that call last year, once he got elevated, all of a sudden they were scoring touchdowns. They were getting yards. They were getting Jared Goff looked more comfortable. Everybody looked more comfortable, and then it trickled into 2022. We had an absolute amazing offense for the first 4 weeks of football. I really couldn't believe how good they were. And then they've been kind of a little bit getting figured out a little bit here and there. Injuries have been piling up. So it's not just Ben Johnson's fault, obviously. But the offense in itself, I think, is a really good offense. He uses guys that he really needs to use. I really like what Ben Johnson has done. You can't really complain about it. I just think he needs to tweak some things here and there during second half adjustments.
And this should be noted, this is Ben Johnson's first offensive coordinator job. And there's a learning curve. Maybe he's taking his lumps, and making those halftime adjustments might be part of that. So that's a great take. Aaron Glenn, what do you think about him and how the defense and how the job he's doing?
Well, he's not doing a very good job. He's not doing a very good job starting from last year. We can blame a little bit of that on personnel, maybe. We could blame some of that on scheme. I think the defense that they're running with that 4-2-5, I think they need more than, you need more than Malcolm Rodriguez. You need two really, really good running linebackers, I think, to run this defense, and they don't really have that. And they don't really have another bookend to help Hutchinson out either. So the personnel is really not there. I like Aaron Glenn. I love his energy. Held the Packers to 9 points last week. He got the game ball from Dan Campbell. I think it was a big boost to morale for sure for him. But I think he needs to be better. And I think they need to get more personnel in there, though. They need more playmakers, man. I like seeing the Kirby Josephs developing. I like seeing the guys like Hutch, who's flashed. Pascal taking on double teams, doing what he does, man, playing the run. He's not going to be really a rush guy. But there's some work that needs to be done on this defense, man. And, if he doesn't get better at it, man, I can't see him being here for next year. But then you have a whole new hole. You're going to have to bring in a whole new defense in and a whole new coach right there. But as of right now, he's definitely on the hot seat, man, for sure.
Right. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. So when you are the coach, I don't want to hear that you have a depleted roster. I don't want to hear that these guys couldn't play on another team. You're not getting it done. Something's got to give. You need to come up with a scheme to work in the personnel that you have so that you don't get beaten and abused like Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle did to this defense. And I think coming off the heels of the Aubrey Pleasant firing, I think the secondary really has responded so far. We'll see if they can keep that up. Now it's time to get to the man. Oh, I don't care if you got one butt cheek and 3 toes. Mr. Dan Campbell, what a character, right? Hard Knocks, this guy endeared himself to the whole country. I mean, we love the guy, but I personally cannot give this guy a pass. He has given away 2 games for sure, in my opinion, that we would have won had it not been for his bonehead calls. Last week, I saw another bonehead call, in my opinion, by not taking the field goal on the opening drive. So all of that aside, in the overall scheme of it, please give me your assessment, Mark Orum, of Dan Campbell.
Well, Dan, man, you love him and you hate him at the same time, kind of at the same, when we're talking about him, man. When he first got, they brought into Detroit, I was like, man, I remember that guy. He played tight end for us, man. I forgot that he was the interim coach in Miami a few years back. But then you go look at that, man, and I guess everybody from Miami loved him. They were hoping he was going to get rehired, but they ended up hiring Adam Gase. He's a guy that is very personable. He's very approachable. He's a guy that's going to talk your ear off. It seems like he's a guy that you're going to feel for him. He's just one of those coaches that you would run through a wall for. I played the sport and I've been through many different coaches, and he's one coach that I would definitely love to play for. But then, like you said, though, man, he some of these fourth quarter decisions, some of these going for it too much. Sometimes it's like, what are you doing? I don't understand why you're doing it. Like, is it a trust issue with your offense? Is it you don't like your defense? Obviously, your defense isn't playing well. So he does make a lot of boneheaded decisions. Last week when he went, with the field goal there, with the 4th and 2, and then he put it in Goff's hands, I was okay with them going for it then. I was okay with them doing that. It was 4th and 3, I believe it was. I just didn't like the fact that they put it in Goff's hands. I didn't like that. So that was on Ben Johnson, but that's Dan Campbell signing off on that play. I personally thought they should have punted though. You know, you were playing good defense. Make Rodgers drive 90 yards. You know, hopefully Fox can do a coffin kick and get him in the corner there. But, you know, they went for it, man. If they make that, no, we're not even having this discussion, really. Like, we're not talking about it. They did end up winning, because if they would have lost, I'm sure, you know, obviously the radio, the fans would have exploded once again. But you're right. You can't really ignore the fact that he makes some boneheaded plays. And you know, you like the guy, but then sometimes you're like, man, dude, like, I'm not sure what you're doing right here. Like, why do you always have to go for it? Like, use your stud punter. You know, even though your defense isn't that great, your defense is playing better, but you have to use the guys that you have around you. You can't just go for it every single time. But he's the riverboat. He's the new riverboat Dan. You know what I mean? He's not the Rivera, but he's dealing Dan, man. And he I don't think he's really going to change his ways, but he just needs to pick and choose his spots. I think that's his problem. And bring in somebody that can really get in his ear with that, because I don't know who's helping on those decisions. He's just going solo, because I know some coaches need help on that, man. And if he's going solo, it might be time maybe to bring somebody in and get in his ear. Like, what's Deuce Staley doing? Deuce Staley's assistant head coach. He should be talking to him about stuff like this. So hopefully they figure it out. I don't think he's personally going to change, but we could be sitting there talking about him getting fired because of what he's doing right here, because there's a chance that he just keeps doing this and it doesn't work, that he could be gone. So
yeah,
so that's the thing. If you want to risk yourself getting fired, go nuts. But if you want to keep this job, you know, you need to pick and choose, man.
Yeah, that's a great take. I mean, we've already established we trust Brad Holmes in his decision making. Right. We know this guy is not a Brad Holmes hire. If he continues to do these kind of things, would you be aligned with Brad Holmes making a coaching decision of his own to choose his own guy to come in here? Because I agree with you that this is the kind of guy players are run through fire for, right? I mean, this is the kind of guy, you know, I wouldn't just play for anyone, but I'd play for this guy. And I think that the other players around the league see Detroit in a different light now as a place maybe I might like to go. I might like to sign a contract and go there and play for that guy. But man, some of these decisions goes against the basic tenets of football coaching. And it's cost us a couple of games. And I love your assessment of him. So you love him. I love him. We all love him. But he's making boneheaded plays. So on the final word on Dan Campbell, how much more rope does he get? What does he have to do to get fired?
Oh, well, what he has to do is decisions like this. Like, you know, if on that 4th and 2, they don't get it, and then Aaron Rodgers drives and scores, and then they lose the football game. A few more of those keep piling up. I don't know if he's going to make it. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to make it out of year 2. It sounds like from Sheila Ford Hamp that she's in no worries about his job. He's not going anywhere. So I don't know. Like, to me and to you, I think the rope is short. But in all honesty, I think the rope is a little bit longer with Sheila. I honestly think that. Now, Brad Holmes is a whole different story, like you said. Apparently, these two guys, though, share a brain. They have discussions. They don't do one thing without asking the other. So, but Brad Holmes, this is not his hire. And I always am a big believer in, okay, if you're going to go that way, if you're going to go the unconditional way and you're going to go you're going to go hire the head coach first, then bring in the GM, you have to give that GM his at least one hire if this doesn't work. And I don't know if Brad Holmes has a guy in mind. Apparently he doesn't right now. I'm kind of hoping that, because that would be a distraction. But if it goes south, for sure, I'm all in on Brad Holmes getting at least one hire. At least.
Yeah, they share a brain, but I'm pretty sure Brad's got the big half.
He's got the bigger hat. He's got the bigger hat, I think.
The lion's share, if you will.
For sure.
All right, I like it. So next question for you there, Mark. On one of your videos, you kind of dropped a little hint on something that I picked up on, and I wanted to ask you about it. Okay. You said, I do believe that we'll get a quarterback when the time is right, but that's a video for another day. So now I want you to give us a little sneak peek on what that video is going to say. When, not who, when is the right time for this team to get a quarterback?
When is the right time? It all depends on where they're at in the draft. It all depends on where they're at. I personally think, though, that they need to draft a quarterback in 2023. I'm not the biggest Jared Goff supporter. I'm not. I don't know if you've seen some of my videos talking about that.
Yeah, you're alive right with us.
Yeah, I am not. I'm not. I don't root for him to fail. Like a lot of people come on my comment section and they think that I'm just hating on the kid because I don't like him. Like I got a personal vendetta against him. It's not that. I just don't think he's a good quarterback. I just don't really. I think he's a middle of the pack quarterback. He's not going to be a guy that is going to take a team on his shoulders, on his back, and say, "Let's go. It's on me." Everything has to be perfect for him in order to win. And I know everyone's like, well, every quarterback in the NFL needs their 3 wide receivers, their starting tight end, this, that, and everything. And I'm like, you're absolutely right. They do. But he's a guy, if he doesn't have that, then it's like, okay, we've packed it in. He's probably not going to win this football game. And I just don't think he's the type of guy that's going to take a team on his shoulders. So I want a quarterback this year. I want a quarterback within the first 2 rounds. That's my wish. I know we need defense. That's why we have 7, 8, 9 other picks. People are like, well, you can't take a quarterback because, we got to do defense. Well, what happened to the other 7, 8 rounds? 7, 8 picks that we have. We can draft a quarterback. And if there's a guy that they love, I think they should go get, man. And there's at least 5 quarterbacks in this draft that are going to go first round. And
right.
I like 3 or 4 of them. I really like 3 or 4 of them. So
shoot those names out to us. Who do you like?
My favorite, and I know my favorite quarterback in this draft coming up is Will Levis. He not because of his numbers, his production. He's not putting up the numbers like C.J. Stroud, the Bryce Youngs, the Hendon Hookers. He's not, but he's a big kid. He's a really big kid. He's really raw though. If you go watch his tape, because I love to do draft analysis too as well. And he's a guy that completely reminds me of Josh Allen coming out of college. Not the Josh Allen now, but coming out of college. Very raw. He can run. He's mobile. He's big. He's got an absolutely insane arm. He can make every NFL throw. He's my favorite quarterback coming out. Now, he won't be the first or second quarterback took. It'll be Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. It will be those 2 guys. That's what I personally think. I like Bryce too as well. I actually do like C.J. Stroud, even though he's an OSU quarterback. You got to be really careful with those OSU quarterbacks. I understand that, but I think he is a good quarterback. He plays in a pro system. He's not just a guy that is just winging it all the time. He's a very smart kid. He's a little bit more of a pocket passer, but he can run outside the pocket. So, and then I like Hendon Hooker from Tennessee. Anthony Richardson's a really raw guy as well too. Not very good accuracy though, but people are going to love his intangibles. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. He's just a beast of a kid. So there's 5 guys that I like, 3
but
that
none of those guys you mentioned make it out of the first round, right?
They shouldn't.
Right.
I don't really see it. Anthony Richardson might slip. He could slip.
What about Levis? You think Levis is going first round as raw as he is, just like Josh Allen? And I agree with you. Josh Allen's first year wasn't pretty.
No,
right? It wasn't until the end of the second year he started to put it all together.
Yeah.
And this kid out of Kentucky has drawn a lot of comparisons to Josh Allen, just like you noted right there. So I think there is something to that. But do you think Levis goes in the first round also?
Oh, I think he's definitely going to go in the first round, especially when they go to the combine and he just, with his athleticism and his arm and his speed, he can run. He's not running this year for some reason at Kentucky. I don't know if he's trying to work on his quarterback skills, but he's not running at all whatsoever. That Kentucky team's not that good offensively anyways.
Overrated too.
Yeah, they're a little bit overrated. They got beat up by Tennessee. He didn't play well. He didn't play well at all versus them, and that was kind of a game that he probably should have showed out, but he didn't. And I think it's going to be one of those guys that is going to be like at the end of the first round, and then he comes to the combine, and they're going to love his intangibles, and he's going to shoot up the draft board. Like, I don't know if he'll be a top 5 or a top 10, but he could be a pick that we might be able to grab maybe with that LA Rams pick if the Rams keep failing.
Well, take the Lions out, okay? That's
Yeah.
one. Now give me 4 other teams that need a quarterback in the first round.
4 of the teams, okay. Let me guess right now.
Houston, maybe
Houston,
Davis
maybe
Mills
Carolina,
is the answer.
maybe Houston, maybe Carolina. Could the Saints maybe go for a quarterback? Are they going to bring back Winston or Andy Dalton? I don't know what they're going to do. The Saints.
I'll give you that one. Atlanta, that Marcus Mariota is not the answer, or is Desmond Ridder the answer?
Yeah. You know, I think they got to take a shot with Ridder. So, but Atlanta could be a team. Like, you never know.
They're so depleted. Their roster is so depleted. I don't think there's any way they take a quarterback Atlanta in the first round.
No.
I don't think they will because of Ridder.
You know what I mean? I think they're going to give a shot to Ridder next year. Mariota's just not it, man. He's just the guy that runs around. He doesn't have a very good arm. He's never really had a very good arm. So they'll give a shot to Ridder probably next year.
If I'm the Giants, I'm going to draft a quarterback.
The Giants are probably going to be looking at a quarterback, but they're going to be teams that they're going to be late. Those guys are going to be late. They're going to have to jump up if they want to get like a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. Like, I think if we're drafting within the top 3, I think we're drafting a quarterback. I honestly do. I think they're going to take, it's just a guess, but I think they'll take a Bryce Young or a CJ Stroud. I think they will do it. I honestly do. If they think that one of those 2 players is a franchise saving quarterback. He's going to have to be a guy that's going to have to be the guy. Like, and the thing is, a lot of people say that this quarterback draft is very heavy, but is there a guy like a Trevor Lawrence that everybody knew was going number 1, and even though he's struggling in Jacksonville, right? But is there a guy? Is it Bryce Young? Everyone talks about his size. Is it CJ Stroud? Everybody talks about him going to OSU. So everyone's got positivity, but there's a lot of negativity in these quarterbacks coming out, even though it's a heavy loaded draft.
Right. Hendon Hooker, the knock on him is we haven't seen enough.
The age.
Yeah. We haven't seen enough of him. So I think that the point is well made, though, and I agree with you that the Lions should take a quarterback in the next draft. I do trust Brad Holmes to make the right decision on there based on what will be available, based on where we're going to be picking. So that was a great spot on take, Mark. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
So now I promised you a couple of curveballs.
Okay.
And I'm going to throw those at you now. And I want you to comment on some of these BS narratives that are out there, and maybe they're legit. And the first one I want to start with is the SOL narrative, the same old Lions. Are we looking at the same old Lions in 2022 as we have before?
Man, you know what? I hate that narrative. I hate that SOL. You know, a lot of people just like to use it just to use it, man. It's like they're putting on their socks. It's just a daily thing, man. They can't help themselves but to say SOL. Like, you know, the Lions do lose some games. SOL, you know, the same old Lions, you know, they're up on the game and they lose it. You know, you can use it in that kind of perspective if you want to. But I think the SOL narrative, I don't think it's really here anymore with this new regime.
All right.
You know, people will kind of point fingers at Dan Campbell and say, well, look, man, you look at this coach that you have here. I mean, he's SOL, man. He doesn't know what he's doing. It's like, well, no, man. He's a good coach. You know, he's a player's coach. He's not an X's and O's guy. He's a guy that players love to play for. So I don't really think that's SOL. Like, SOL comes like SOL is such a weird, like it's such a different meaning to me. It's like SOL is like, you're up 14, you're up 14-3, and it's like they get 2 more possessions in the fourth quarter. And that's an SOL loss if you lose the game. That would be an SOL thing to me. But the SOL mindset, I don't really know why people say that. I just don't know why like people just use it to use it, I feel. And I don't really know why they're using it. I think it's a really strange SOL. I hate it. I hate using it. And it's just very, very annoying to me.
I hate it also. I miss the days when SOL meant shit out of luck.
Right.
But
Yeah.
but definitely a tired narrative, and they use it for everything. Anything that goes wrong, they can just always put that on there. And I'm going to ask you for the obvious now. What will it take to destroy the SOL?
Win.
Right.
Just
So
win, man.
until
Just
that happens, we're
one
going to
word.
have to live with it, I think, Mr. Orum.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Like if you start winning ball games, man, that SOL thing goes, the SOL narrative goes away because you can't use it anymore because they're winning football games. So
right. But
bring
you
along
touched on a
some,
couple of great things there. We're getting good draft picks. We got coaches that they want to play for.
right?
That's not SOL. We have an offense ranked in the top 5. That's not SOL. So I think there's a lot of things here at play that are on the way to destroying that narrative.
Same
Now
here.
I'm going to ask you now about the narrative that I hate the most in the world, and that is sell the team. This team will never be successful until the Fords sell it. I guess there is some validity to that because ownership hires the people that buy the groceries, that cook the meal, and it's been rotten meals for 60 years.
Yeah.
So I get it, that part of it. But the part that bugs me the most, and I want your take on this, people who think that the Fords don't care about winning, they don't want to win. That this is somehow a tax write-off for their billion-dollar business. So tell me about sell the team. Are these people out of their minds, or is there legitimacy there?
I don't think there's any legitimacy to it, man. It's like sell the team. They're not. First of all, the Fords aren't selling. Sheila's not selling. They're not going to sell. And the fact that people want to say that they don't want to win, I don't believe that. I just don't think they've done it the right way. I just, I'm not going to sit here and say we've had 60 years of bad luck. I just feel that they just haven't made the right decisions. You know what I mean? Like, why sell the team? I think they want to win. They already had their money, and I know having a football team brings in more revenue, brings in more money. I understand that, but Sheila seems like she's a little bit different than her dad or her mom. We don't know on a personal level if they actually cared about this team. I think they did, but we can only say, well, we can only guess that, right? But when you hear Sheila talk, she seems a little bit more, seems more transparent about the team. She's not like her mom and her dad. It feels like she wants to win, and selling the team's not going to work. Like, sell the team, it's not leaving Detroit. So people just want new owners because we just lose.
Yeah,
we lose. We just lose too much, man, and that's why people come at him like that. And I just try to ignore those type of people, though. I really do.
Winning is really hard in the NFL. It's really, really hard to do. And for anybody who's watching this who has that mindset that the Fords don't want to win, just let me tell you right now that is not true. The only thing that rich people like more than money is more money. And winning will just produce more money. And with TV revenue sharing, all NFL teams make a profit. No one has to go to a game or anything. They will still be profitable because the TV contracts are gigantic, enormous.
Yeah.
And that pie is split up evenly now. So the Lions will continue to make money. Please don't think that they don't want to win, because they will only make more money. So hey, Mark, we're going to wrap this up, man. I just wanted to say thanks so much for being on the show. And I want to remind all of our listeners to head over to YouTube and check out Orum's Forum. Click subscribe and check out all his content, because he is spot on with his takes regularly. So, hey, Mark, thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, thanks a lot, man. This was a blast. I really appreciate you guys asking me to come on. I had fun, man. Let's do it again sometime. Let's talk Lions football. One pride, baby.
One pride. So with that, I'm Main Event Mike for the Main Event 365. God bless each and every one of you. Peace out.